They say the difference between being heard and being ignored isn't how loud you speak. It's whether you have something real to say. Have you ever walked out of a meeting, a conversation, a pitch, and thought, I said so many words, but did I really say anything? Have you felt the creeping frustration of watching blank faces, missed opportunities, lost impact, simply because your message got lost in a fog of extra noise? Now imagine this. What if every time you opened your mouth, people leaned in instead of zoning out? What if your ideas didn't just float, they landed? What if clarity was your superpower? But here's the haunting truth. Most people don't fail because they lack intelligence, charisma, or even confidence. They fail because they don't know their point. They talk in circles, decorate their sentences with fancy words, layer story upon story, but never reach the core. The result? Messages vanish into thin air. And in a world bursting with noise, the inability to cut through, to get to the point, is the same as being invisible. So here's the question that Get to the Point by Joel Schwartzberg dares us to confront. Do you actually have a point, or are you just delivering information? Do your words carry purpose, or are you hoping your passion will compensate for your vagueness? What does it really mean to own your point, to sharpen it like a blade, and to make sure it sticks? As we journey through the ideas in this book, ask yourself, what kind of communicator am I? When I speak, do people walk away with clarity or confusion? Am I filling the air or changing minds? And if I could master the art of getting to the point, how different would my relationships, my career, my influence be? Joel Schwartzberg's message is deceptively simple, but utterly transformational. He tells us that knowing your point is not just about being a better speaker, it's about being a clearer thinker. Because the fog in our speech often begins in our minds. And the cure? It's radical clarity. It's the discipline of asking before every conversation, pitch, presentation, or argument. What's my point? And am I making it? Joel begins with a personal confession. Early in his career, as a competitive public speaker and speech coach, he thought he was delivering powerful messages. But when he examined the actual substance of his speeches, he realized he wasn't actually delivering a point. He was sharing thoughts, data, stories, emotions, but without a focused idea that everything pointed back to. And that's when it hit him. So many people suffer not from fear of public speaking, but from not knowing what their message is. So what is a point exactly? It's not a topic. I want to talk about leadership is not a point. Neither is the environment is important or communication is vital in the workplace. These are themes, not points. A true point is a clear, specific argument, something that takes a stance. Effective leadership requires empathy more than authority. Now that is a point. It's something you can argue, support, and deliver with power. Without that clarity, we're just wandering. Joel says if you can't write your point in a single, sharp sentence, you don't have a point yet. And that's where most people go wrong. They begin speaking before they've finished thinking. They rely on the momentum of their voice to substitute for the precision of their message. But energy without clarity is just noise. Imagine someone building a house by throwing bricks in all directions, hoping a structure will emerge. That's how many of us communicate, throwing stories, quotes, ideas, facts, without building toward a single purpose. But once you know your point, everything aligns. Your stories support it. Your facts anchor it. Your emotions elevate it. And your audience walks away with something solid. Think about the last time you watched a TED Talk that moved you, or read an article that changed your mind, or heard a podcast that stayed with you for days. I guarantee it had a point. And not just any point, but one that was clear, bold, and relentlessly focused. That's the magic Joel teaches. Clarity isn't a side dish, it's the main course. But clarity isn't always comfortable, because making a point means taking a stand. It means cutting away the fluff and facing the fear that maybe your core message is too simple, or too controversial, or too vulnerable. So we hedge. We add disclaimers. We say, well, I just think, or I'm not sure, but, or it's kind of like, and in trying to soften our blow, we erase our impact. Joel invites us to be bolder. He tells us to stop shrinking our ideas with timid language. Your point deserves to stand tall. You don't need to decorate it with hesitation. Own it. Declare it. Trust it. And once you've found your point, your job is to defend it, not just with data, but with heart. Joel says your personal stories, your real-life experiences, your beliefs, these are the armor your point wears. They make it real. Without them, your message is abstract. But when you say, here's what I believe, here's where I learned it, here's why it matters, people listen. Let's bring this down to everyday life. You're in a meeting. You have 3 minutes to share your thoughts. The old version of you might ramble through context, explain the background, talk about the problem, then maybe at the end, try to say something meaningful. But the new you start with the point. We should cancel the project because it's no longer serving our core goals. Boom. Then you explain why. That's how leaders speak. That's how clarity wins. Or maybe you're in a personal conversation. Someone asks how you feel about something important. Do you deflect? Do you meander? Or do you say, I believe we're growing apart and it scares me? That's not just a point. That's honesty. And the clarity of that statement creates space for truth, for connection. Everywhere in life, at work, in love, in creativity, in conflict, the ability to get to the point is the difference between drifting and driving. And Joel gives us the tools to drive. He teaches us to remove the clutter, to recognize when we're hiding behind language, to find the one sentence that holds the power of our entire message. This isn't just about public speaking. It's about everyday moments, job interviews, emails, elevator pitches, hard conversations, first dates. If you know your point, you hold power. If you don't, you surrender it. So how do we actually find that one sentence, the one that holds our message's soul? Joel introduces a simple but brutally effective exercise. He asks, can you complete this sentence? The point I'm trying to make is, try it. Right now. Say it out loud. The point I'm trying to make is, and finish the thought. If what follows is vague, general, or still packed with extra explanation, you're not there yet. But when you land on that one sentence that feels like it stands on its own, that demands no further dressing, that's when you've struck gold. Joel calls this the point of view test. If you can't articulate your message as a strong, concise point of view, you're not ready to deliver it. And here's the truth most people dodge. Preparation doesn't begin with PowerPoint slides or bullet points. It begins in silence, with you alone digging for your point. That moment of internal clarity sets the foundation for external impact. Think about how often we get that wrong. We jump into action, into performance mode, before we've even wrestled with our purpose. But Joel's challenge is unwavering. Don't say anything, don't write anything, until you know your point. Because every sentence that follows should exist because of that point, not beside it. Once you have your point, the next step is to protect it. And this is where most messages unravel. Joel says we often bury our points under layers of background, disclaimers, and information. We're so eager to be thorough that we end up being forgettable. But a strong point doesn't need to be padded. It needs to be presented, then reinforced. Directly, fearlessly. He gives us tools for this. First, start with your point. Don't build up to it like a twist in a movie. This isn't suspense, it's communication. Lead with clarity. If your audience knows where you're going, they'll follow you. If they have to guess, they'll get tired. Start strong. Here's what I believe. Here's the change we need. Here's why this matters. And then every example, every fact, every quote, every metaphor. Use them like arrows all pointing to the same target. Joel also warns against the "and another thing" syndrome, the habit of stacking multiple points together in a single message. The more points you try to make, the fewer get remembered. So choose one. Not because the others don't matter, but because focus amplifies power. You're not building a museum of ideas, you're aiming a spotlight. And yet, clarity isn't just about what you say, it's also about how you say it. Joel dives into the landmines of language: hedging, over-explaining, passive voice, filler words. These are the enemies of impact. Phrases like "I think," sort of, maybe, or "what I'm trying to say is," they dilute your authority. Joel challenges us. If you believe in your point, don't wrap it in bubble wrap. Say it like you mean it. Own your voice. Your audience can feel the difference. But here's where the book touches something deeper. It's not just about speech patterns. It's about self-trust. We hedge because we're afraid. Afraid of being wrong. Afraid of judgment. Afraid of being seen. But Joel gently reminds us, clarity isn't arrogance. It's respect. When you speak with clarity, you honor your audience. You respect their time, their attention, their capacity for truth. Rambling is selfish. Precision is generous. Let's pause for a second. Not to break the flow, but to let something settle. Think about a moment in your life when you didn't get to the point. Maybe it was a conversation that spiraled, a pitch that flopped, a heartfelt truth that you buried in too many words. What did that moment cost you? And now imagine the opposite. What would it look like if, in that same moment, you had spoken your point with courage and clarity? Feel the shift. That's the power we're reclaiming here. Joel also explores the importance of delivery. Not performance, not dramatics, but presence, confidence, simplicity. He says clarity is not only what you say, but what people hear. And hearing depends on trust. So slow down, breathe, emphasize, eliminate distractions, use silence, let your point breathe. Sometimes, the most powerful part of a sentence is the pause that follows it. He also shares a striking metaphor. Imagine your point as a gift. Would you hand someone a beautifully wrapped box, then tape another box to it, and another, until it's too heavy to carry? That's what we do when we overtalk, when we explain too much, when we fear silence. But when you give one clear gift presented with care, that's what gets remembered. The book isn't about perfection. It's about intention. It's not about being a flawless speaker. It's about being a focused one. Joel shares stories of clients who transformed their careers not by becoming more charismatic, but by learning to own their point. A nervous executive, a teacher, a startup founder. None of them added words. They subtracted. They got clear. And that clarity became power. Now picture this. You're about to give a speech. A crucial one. The old you would have tried to impress. You'd have written pages, tried to say everything. But the new you ask one question. What's my point? You find it. You sharpen it. You write it down. One sentence. Then you build around it, not above it. You walk on stage. You begin with your point. And the room leans in. That's not a fantasy. That's a skill. A discipline. And Joel teaches it with a simplicity that feels like truth. But perhaps the deepest message in Get to the Point is this. Clarity isn't just a communication tool. It's a way of living. When we know our point, we don't just speak better. We think better, decide better, love better, because life throws countless questions at us. What do you want? What do you believe? What are you fighting for? And the people who thrive are not always the loudest, they're the clearest. So what does it really mean to live a life rooted in clarity? It means no longer mistaking movement for meaning. It means no longer confusing noise with influence. It means realizing that your value doesn't lie in how much you say, but in how powerfully what you say lands. Clarity isn't just about trimming words, it's about elevating truth. It's about stepping into a space where you're not just reacting to life, but actively shaping it with the strength of your convictions. Joel makes us understand that getting to the point isn't just a communication tactic, it's a mirror that reflects how well we understand ourselves. Because in truth, you cannot communicate clearly what you have not clarified for yourself. And that's why this book hits deeper than expected. You start reading it to learn how to speak better, but you end up confronting how you think, how you lead, how you love. Let's say you're pitching an idea. It's your dream project, something that could change your life. You walk into the room, nerves high, heart pounding. The old you might have built a 30-slide deck. You'd talk about the industry, the trends, the competitors. But the new you? The one Joel's been shaping? You walk in and you say, here's what I believe will change everything. You state your point, clean, clear, undeniable. And suddenly, the room tilts in your favor. Not because you dazzled them, but because you didn't waste a single heartbeat. But what about relationships? What about the words we say to the people we love? Think of the last time you said something meaningful to someone. An apology, a truth, a dream. Did you get to the point? Or did you hedge, dance around it, soften it until it lost shape? Now imagine saying, I'm sorry because I hurt you. Or, I want us to grow together. Imagine saying what you mean before the moment slips away. That's clarity. That's love, sharpened into truth. Clarity is also courage. Because let's not pretend it's easy. It's terrifying, sometimes, to put your truth on the table and let it breathe. But Joel reminds us again and again, vagueness is a shield, and shields are heavy. Clarity is freedom. You may feel exposed when you speak clearly, but that vulnerability is what makes people trust you, follow you, believe in you. We live in a world obsessed with more. More data, more content, more explanations. But Joel flips the script. He says, less but clearer. He teaches us how to break the addiction to overtalking, to stop worshiping complexity, because the greatest truths in history were simple. I have a dream. Be the change. Stay hungry, stay foolish. You don't remember them because they were long. You remember them because they were sharp enough to pierce the noise. And here's something we often overlook: clarity scales. It travels. A clear point can cross rooms, cities, cultures, generations. A vague message dies on arrival. But a clear one? It spreads like fire. And that means your ideas, your message, has a chance to live beyond you. So how do we bring this into our lives right now? Start by asking yourself, what's my point? In my work? In my relationships? In my self-talk? When I speak, do I fill space or do I create impact? Do I trust that what I'm saying needs to be said, or am I speaking to protect myself from silence? And then this is the hard part, start cutting. Cut the disclaimers. Cut the backstories. Cut the apologies. You're not deleting your heart, you're revealing it. When you get to the point, you're not making your message smaller. You're making it undeniable. Joel gives one final gift in this journey, and it's subtle but powerful. The permission to be clear. To not hide behind trends or jargon or polished presentations. To walk into a room, a stage, a conversation, and say, "This is my truth." And to believe that that alone is enough. And maybe that's what we all need a little more of. Not louder voices, but clearer hearts. So as this story ends, let's return to those questions we asked at the beginning. What if every message you shared had impact? What if you could command attention not with theatrics, but with substance? What if your ideas didn't just fill time, but changed minds? What if every word you spoke actually mattered? That future isn't just possible. It's within reach. You just have to get to the point. And when you do, everything changes. Because clarity isn't just how we speak. It's how we move through the world. It's how we say what we mean. It's how we mean what we say. It's how we stop hiding and start mattering. So today, make that choice. Find your point. Own it. Speak it. And let it echo into the spaces where noise once lived.